Inside a castle, a king recalls that it's been 10 years since a prophecy from the sage Alabaster. A young girl is summoned, where she is forced to ponder about her future. On the outskirts of a city, a boy is high in a tree catching bugs. He is distracted by a bright holy light, and an old man and a young girl arrive. The girl asks the boy what his name is. The now-named Satu blushes, as he's not used to talking to girls. She calls him odd and introduces herself as Hime no Kana. Satu is not allowed to inform anyone of what he saw today. In exchange for keeping this secret, Hime will agree to be his friend. A much older Satu remembers this day. He felt that this girl needed his protection. 10 years later, in an apartment close to the forest, he met Hime in. An older high school version of Satu is blissfully sleeping. Hime smiles and greets him in the morning, having freshly prepared their breakfast. The meal is large and full of energy. Satu explains that Hime has been his childhood friend since they were kids. The girl lives with her grandparents, and she's his next-door neighbor. While thinking about their relationship, he can't help but stare at a growing mountain. He comments on how Hime's profile has been growing ever since the two entered high school. Hime stops to stare at Sato, inching closer to his face, grabbing a piece of rice from his chin. She eats it, making Satu pass out. The two walk to school together, where Sato greets Hime's grandfather. While walking, Hime asks Sato about when his father will arrive, but Sato doesn't see the man coming back for the summer. In a flashback, Sato is told by Hime that the rings she wears are to be given to her husband, with the rings holding a significant meaning to the girl. A young Hime asks Sato if he'd marry her when the two get older. Hime notices him staring at the rings and teases Sato, as he'll never get one from her, reminding him on how childhood promises go. In school, Hime receives a 97 on her final, with her friends praising her genius, while Satu's friend complains about his love life, hating Sato for having a girlfriend in Nokana. Satu disagrees, as the two are simply neighbors. His friend tells him not to take this relationship for granted, as she might leave him. Nokana sends Satu a text for him to meet her by the shrine before the festival at 6:30. Satu blushes, as she could have just asked him. At the festival, the two meet up. Satu notices the girl looks cute in her yukata. Hime leans in with a smug smile, asking Satu if her appearance took his breath away, but to her surprise, he admits that she has. Hime is excited to check out the summer festival. Hime reminds him of the time the two got lost, and how Hime and Sato held hands the whole time so they wouldn't get lost, admitting that the boy was her hero when she first arrived in town. The girl calls the ugly-looking chocolate banana figures cute and happily eats it. Nokanatika waves her hand like an excited dog as she tells Sato she wants a stuffed toy in a shooting stall and asks him to win it for her. The shop owner tells him that it's 500 yen. Satu pays the man and aims at the stuffed toy, and he thinks that he doesn't want to risk his current friendship with the girl. He shoots the cork and wins the toy for her. But he wants more moments like this with Hime. The two then go to the shrine, and as he's about to confess, the fireworks interrupt him. Hime enjoys the show and is happy they got to do this. He agrees. Hime also has something to ask Satu. The girl's eyes begin to sparkle as she's on the verge of tears. With the way her lips tremble, he assumes that the girl feels the same way and is about to have the courage to say it. But as he gets his hopes up, they shatter, as she mentions that she and Grandpa decided to move away. Satu's entire worldview is shattered, as his princess is moving back to her homeland effective tomorrow. Returning to her apartment building, she stops at the door and she thanks him for everything. Lying in bed, Satu wonders where her homeland is, as she said it was very far away. Turning to the side, he internally thinks that he thought that he knew everything about her, but all this time he never actually knew anything. He's awakened from his thoughts as an intense golden light catches his attention. Getting up, he sees it coming from the mountains. This makes him remember the day he first met Hime. Nokanatika is having similar thoughts, but has to prepare herself to go back home alone. But when she takes a step forward, she hears Satu calling out to her. Seeing that he remembers now, she reminds him that she has to go home now, as she's about to be married. Sato can't believe the girl was serious about what she said to him. Hime reminds him that she's been serious since the day they met, and as a princess, she has a responsibility. Nokanatika walks forward, noting looking back as she guesses this is the last time the two will see each other. Satu calls out to her but stops short, wondering what the point of him coming here was. Satu grits his teeth as he's made his mind up and runs to the other side into the golden light. He hears the voice of an old man call out Jaime's full name, Crystal Novati no Kanataka. In a palace surrounded by other nobles, Crystal is moments away from being married to a prince. Satu is confused by his surroundings, but interrupts the ceremony when the priest asks her to perform the sacred kiss. Before anyone can react, the ceremony is interrupted, this time by a monster. The people there call it an abyssal creature. This grandfather decides to reveal to the audience that the monster is here to take the princess's life, which is why they hid her on Earth for 10 years. The grandfather jumps around better than any athlete, and he tries to fight it, but he is distracted by seeing Satu. The monster knocks him against a wall, forming a crater. The grandfather, named Alabaster, then tries to cuck Satu by telling Kirstal to perform the sacred kiss to destroy it with the power of light. Hima grips the wedding rings she carries tightly, looking about at the prince and at Satu. Coming to a decision, she calls Satu. She kisses him. A powerful light emanates from her body, while the grandfather panics, questioning what she's done. The prince grins as he understands. Instead of being a soy boy beta male, he offers his sword to the man she chose. Satu doesn't know how to use the sword, but before he can panic and make a fool of himself, his ring glows. This was not how he expected his day to go, but when ultimate power falls in your lap, you gotta use it, and he slashes the monster. The three are shocked by his performance, but his body isn't used to the power and he passes out. Crystal greets him in the royal couple's bedchamber. She reminds him of the kiss, making it official. He turns away like a shy boy, asking if this means that Haim loves him. She says she was corrupted by the Earth's customs, as she was supposed to marry that prince, but she knew nothing about him. She didn't want to marry a stranger. So when she turned and saw a familiar face, she jumped at him. This shocks him, as he was hoping she felt the same way about him, but he's been friend-zoned till now. She apologizes, as she just pushed a whole bunch of responsibility on him, starting now, apologizing in advance. Outside, two maids talking about the ring king being Satu. The young girl is super excited, while the other girl couldn't care less. In a dark chamber, the commoners whisper about how the princess was supposed to marry the second son of the empire. This marriage was going to strengthen an alliance, but it's ruined. Marmarugia's Mars Jazaras, better known as Mars, tries to talk some sense into the people. As the princess chooses the ring king, he and the other boy are nothing more than indispensable pieces, so it doesn't matter. But the commoners still think he's trying to save face, as the emperor will be furious when he hears. Grandpa interrupts the commoners' argument, telling them their opinion isn't needed, as they can't change the past. Grandfather takes the two teens to the balcony, where a large crowd that has been waiting since this morning is cheering to see the famed ring king. The old man tells Satu to greet the crowd. The boy is of course nervous, as he doesn't know what to say. Satu then states that he is the ring king that has traveled here from another world to save them, and everyone cheers. The scene then cuts to our hero Sato taking a bath with a nervous Hime prepared to start her wifely duties. He turns to see her, and Sato wonders why she is here. Hime says this can't be helped, as people will find it odd if a newly married couple doesn't bathe together. She then tells him not to look, as she's not trying to give a free show. After she calms down, Hime apologizes for causing so much trouble for Satu, as it's her fault for dragging him into this. Satu tries to downplay her role as the Maiden of Light that picked him, but calls this trip nothing but a summer break vacation. Rending her that she chose him as her husband, the princess calls it nothing but a show and not the real thing. But now she's unable to leave to go back to Japan, with this now being true for him as well. Hearing this, she remembers that when she first started going to school, everyone bullied her and left her alone because they found her hair color and shape odd. But it was Satu who helped her relax, and eventually she made friends. The bell then rings, and Satu gets up in worry as he believes they're under attack, unknowingly releasing his sheathed kabord. They head to the palace gate as the soldiers try to hold back the monster's army. One soldier informs them that the ring king and the princess are arriving. He looks at Jaime's chest, noticing that they are half-dressed, and wonders if they interrupted their intimate moment. Hime screams that they haven't done that yet, making Satu aware that it will happen eventually. A soldier sincerely tells them that they are under attack by abyssal monsters, as it's likely the one at the ceremony was just a scout. He pleads with Satu to save them. All eyes turn to their king, expecting him to lead them. Jaime tries to lower their expectation as the boy doesn't know how to fight in, But Alabaster says he'll have to figure it out. After all, he's now the Ring King. Satu grips his fingers into a fist, reassuring Hime that he'll be fine as he's going to protect her. Alabaster tells him to pick up an axe. He explains that the ring takes any weapon in his hand, turning it into the perfect weapon for fighting the abyss. Satu admits that things make less sense the more he stays in this world, but reaffirms his belief that he'll fight to protect this place because it's Jaime's home. The girl blushes hearing his firm stance, jumping into his arms to give her husband a farewell kiss. A maid in the castle is being cornered by an abyssal creature that stares at her hungrily. Satu rushes in time to slice it in half. Saving her, he tells the maid to run to safety. Sato is surprised how easy it's been today, as yesterday he passed out after defeating one, but that's his third monster. Alabaster tells him that it's thanks to the princess's kiss, as his power source is the bond he shares with his wife. The princess role is to support him, making him blush. Alabaster pats his shoulder, reminding him not to stress himself too much, as the princess isn't around, with him here to provide additional support. The two then feel a powerful wind. The leader of the enemy forces then comes there, a figure shrouded in darkness with a one-eyed mask. The figure notices the Ring of Light and Satu as the Ring King. Alabaster shouts that this person is a knight of the Abyss King. Satu naively charges the knight thinking it was at the same level as the monsters, but the knight tosses him against a wall, leaving his axe in pieces. Alabaster tells him to get up, and the two run away. Satu is confused, thinking he was invincible with the ring's power, but Alabaster bluntly tells him he isn't ready. For now, he needs to survive. While running, the knight sent two monsters. This forces the old man to block their path with a boulder. But as he tells him to leave, they see they're now trapped with the Abyss Knight. Luckily, at this moment, Mars jumps in, managing to cover the knight's vision, then tosses a candle over it. Effectively defeating the monster, he turns to tell them he's prepared a carriage for the two. Satu says he won't leave without Hime, but Mars tells him they have no time to follow him. In the carriage, Hime is glad to see that Sato is all right. The prince tells them that the monsters also managed to seize the southern tower, so he took it upon himself to save the princess before she was in danger. Satu still doesn't know who the guy is, and he introduces himself as the second prince, Mars. Alabaster believes that the abyssal creatures only want their treasures of light, so once they are unable to find them, they'll most likely leave, meaning the people should be safe. Satu is confused on why they are retreating if he's the only one compatible with defeating them. Alabaster reminds him not to be impatient as he's not strong enough. Satu wants to rush and be stronger, so Alabaster tells him to find all the rings. Satu gets embarrassed as the ring is a wedding ring, meaning Alabaster tells Satu that his next mission is to marry the other 4 princesses and receive their rings. Satu states that polygamy is wrong, and Alabaster tells him it's his duty as the Ring King. Not to mention the idea sounds exciting. This bothers Hime, as she always knew about it but isn't happy. The group books a room at the inn, and Alabaster thinks he should stay in the room with Crystal as he can protect her, which is crazy when he decides to protect her. Crystal isn't interested, shocking him, but the prince says it's best for her husband to stay with the girl. The two are embarrassed, and Alabaster decides it's time to tell him the history of the Ring King. The original Ring King had legendary riz and was already married to 5 women. When the Abyss monsters appeared causing trouble, he created a way to defeat them. He made rings with elemental powers: light, fire, water, wind, and earth. After defeating the Abyss monsters, he had the woman take the rings back to their countries for safeguarding, as a symbol of his love to each of them. In theory, you just need the rings, but on the safe side, as well as sticking to tradition, the Ring King will marry 5 princesses. Apparently, the rings can help seal the Abyss King, but don't actually neutralize the problem. At this time, Mars is having an internal battle of hoping not to get cucked for real this time, while Sato is sweating under the pressure. In their room, Hime tells him not to think deeply about the marriage, as it's not taken as seriously in their world. As Sato is about to respond, he cries out in pain. She tells him to show her the injury. When she sees the wounds he's received, she mutters it's all her fault, as she chose him to be the Ring King, and she runs away crying. Satu then goes out to look for her, and he comes across Mars. After Mars is done saying how great he is, he points him in the direction of Hime. Satu finds her sitting alone. After getting her attention, he decides it's time to tell her the truth, that he loves her, and he's tired of pretending he doesn't. And he made his own decision to come here, so she doesn't need to blame herself. Hime cries when hearing his confession, but decides it's time for her to respond. She was ready to close her heart off to perform her task as the princess, to support her complete stranger of a husband. But when she saw the person she loved appear, her mind went blank and she jumped at it. But now she has to watch the person she loves get hurt repeatedly, calling the feeling unimaginable. Not to mention he'd have to marry other women, the feeling it's something she'd take lightly. Satu apologizes for being selfish. Hime states that she doesn't want the marriage to be on paper, but loves him as his real wife. Fulfilling all her duties, back at the room, the two sit down on the bed after pouring their hearts out to each other, and it's now awkward. The atmosphere gets a little heavy in some places, mainly his pants. Sato pushes Hime on the bed. He can't go through with this because he thinks that this doesn't feel right. As he notices she's shaking, she questions him on why he stops. Satu nervously blurts out a lot, but she's able to hear he's been waiting 10 years for this, which she finds creepy. Satu says that a day ago they were childhood friends, so there's no need to rush their relationship, opting to take it slow. Hime feels the same way and the two kiss. The next morning, Alabaster awkwardly asks if the two slept well last night. But hearing they didn't do it, he calls their relationship boring as it's going so slow, revealing he was watching them last night, which WTF creepy grandpa. Alabaster is disappointed, but mentions the ring's power comes from a strengthened bond, so they need to deepen it. Mars greets the two and gives them a cloak as their school uniform stands out too much. When hearing they're going to visit elves, Satu can't help but make a funny joke and ask if he's really going to marry an elf, not knowing they had those. But then horny grandpa tells him that elves are more beautiful than any human, so this should get him excited. Elf country was the place people went to learn all types of knowledge as they were alive the longest and liked to store information. But around 50 years ago, a wall of impenetrable wind was erected around it. Alabaster mentions that the barrier has stopped invasion from various races, and now this nation is nothing like it used to be. A large wild animal like a bear then walks to them. Satu doesn't see the danger and walks up to pet it. The bear growls at them. Chasing them, Alabaster scolds him for being stupid. The group now are blocked off because of the barrier. The group is directed to enter a tree. Two elves arrive, wanting an explanation. Alabaster greets them as children of the wind. As Grandpa is going to explain, Satu interrupts saying he's the Ring King and he is here for their princess. Hime tells him to hold on, whispering to him that not everyone is just going to hand over their woman and the power of the ring. The two offer to take him to the kingdom, but tell him not to get his hopes up on marrying the princess. At the palace, he reassures the princess that he's only here to pick up another ring, not a wife. Inside, they see a figure behind the throne. The person wiggles when it's been spotted. The girl's name is Nephritis Ramka, and she starts to ask the embarrassing questions, as she assumes they've already made babies before. Finding it gross they've already kissed, being a shut-it, she runs away. In the next moment, the prince of the nation, Jade Ramka, walks in. He explains that his little sister is a hopeless shut-in, as it won't be easy to earn her ring. Jade has his guards surround Satu, calling for them to imprison him in the dungeon for all of their safety, but assures that the rest will be treated as honored guests. In jail, Satu is confused and a bit scared he offended the next king. Jade tells him that his sister Nephites is a sensitive person. Satu interrupts to agree, saying she's weak-minded and acts like a child. Hearing this, Jade is offended, angrily tells Satu that his otherworldly standards don't apply to his precious sister. He calms down, but it's too late as he confirms he's a cis-con. Jade then starts to ramble about how much he loves his innocent sister. Jade is obsessed with his sister. The girl has never set foot outside the royal palace, not accustomed to the outside world. Being a young child at the age of 54, calling her too young to think about marriage. As her older brother, it's his duty to safeguard and nurture her until he's no longer here, humbly stating it should only take another 80 years, asking that he peace stay here in the meantime. Satu screams at him to let him go as he die of old age. Walking outside the guard, asks if this is really a good idea. Jade is indifferent in the matter, as he doesn't care about the Abyss King, believing the Tempest Wall will defend them from anything. So he's delusional and a cis-con. Great. Satu wonders if he is going to rot here. When next a mature elven woman approaches him, she silences him as she wants to know what he plans to do with the power of the 5 rings. Does he want world peace, absolute power, or to marry 5 beautiful wives? Satu yells, not caring about her question, answering he only wants to marry the girl he loves, Hime. The woman is shocked he did this all for one woman, opening a passage offering to help him escape. Satu gets serious, wanting to know her plan from all this. The elf woman named Peridot says simply, to save her nation from a short-sighted prince, meaning she needs him to defeat the Abyssal King, and he can't do that behind bars. The prince believes the barrier made from the ring is the ultimate defense, but it's nothing more than a prison that keeps them away from the outside world. Peridot takes him to the resting place of the Ring of Wind. The ring has been kept here away from the princess, as Peridot is mad, believing the princess should have had it many years ago. As Satu is about to ask her about this, Peridot's eyes become sharp and she instructs him to hide. Wobbling inside is the princess. The girl shows herself, and Satu is taken away by her beauty. Nephritis prays to the statue of her mother and father, as she has doubts in her heart as she's unable to make a decision. Satu is unfazed, asking harshly why she's praying to a statue of her parents. Peridot tells him this isn't just a statue, but the actual petrified form of them. Even still, they draw on the ring's power to protect them. Satu yells out in shock. Nephritis asks the voice of someone here, and Peridot is shocked how bad he is. Satu makes animal sounds, and Peridot can't believe he can't even get the sound right. Nephritis is embarrassed, telling him to come out. Seeing it's the Ring King, she faints. Her cry is heard by the guard, who goes to investigate. Peridot tells him to leave while she fixes this mess. Jade hears about his sister's disappearance, demanding they find her. Peridot is an elder of the elves, living long enough to see the princess be born. She leaves the two alone to allow Satu to convince the girl to join him. Just when Satu is getting funny ideas, the girl wakes up, freaking out. She barfs. Meanwhile, Jade is furious that Satu isn't in his prison, deeming he's the one behind this. Hime is worried. Peridot walks in, declaring that he's right as the Ring King has eloped with his sister. Jade gets sick as he's starting to hyperventilate. Peridot sounds like an evil TV villain as she's eloped with the man she loves, and there's nothing he can do, as he has to face reality. After Jade is done having a mental breakdown, he shakes off the elder's words about him being selfish and goes to find his sister. Meanwhile, with the two, she has his clothes hung up to dry as she apologizes. Still an idea why both of them have no clothes on. Satu wonders if he is really that terrifying, and Nephritis doesn't hesitate to state that he is. She mentions that she grew up inside the palace, and she has always been scared of outsiders. She was told that Satu has come from another world. Satu states that this is true, but admits that back home he wasn't special at all, as he never stood out. Nephritis is curious to hear about his home. As he continues, she interrupts because he hesitates, believing it's because it's terrifying, as monsters must cross from the ocean to attack them. Or people are afraid to walk at night because of monsters attacking them. Satu rushes to stop her, as there aren't any monsters there. She gets excited from hearing this and rushes closer. She wonders if there are elves in his world. But Satu states they aren't. He asks her if she is interested in traveling to his world. Not expecting this because Jade said she was known as the Shut-In Princess. Satu tries to apologize as this isn't a nickname an outsider should call her. Nephritis says she's used to it, as people know her as this. She'd always have the elder bring her books to the outside world. Reading makes her want to travel and experience the outside world, but the real her is stuck here. Satu tells her that they are very much alike, as he didn't come here because he's obsessed with power, as he only came here to be with the girl he loves. As all you need to do is have a leap of faith. Hearing this sentence moves here, she jumps at him, excitedly saying she'd love to live in Satu's world. Satu is trying to keep his little brother in check, but he is seeing an eyeful of Nephrites' excitement. Looking down, she's embarrassed and hurriedly covers up. Hearing how excited she is about the world, he has to ask why she hasn't explored the outside world yet. Nephritis is about to say, but her brother yells for her to come out as he knows the Ring King is in there. As they dress, he says that he only became the Ring King because he wanted to be with him, and now it's his mission to collect the rings. However, he has no intention of forcing Nephritis into marrying. Nephritis is determined to face the outside world, reassuring that her older brother will understand. Outside, Jade tells Nephites to stay away from the Ring King. Nephritis grips onto Satu for support. Crystal notices their closeness. Jade is shocked to see in one afternoon this scoundrel has managed to claw his way to his sister. Nephritis comes out to say the Ring King is not how the rumors describe him. Jade says the Ring King has deceived her, and he sees her. He mentions that their nation will be protected as long as their parents have the ring. Nephritis says this doesn't change. She was supposed to inherit the ring someday, and she can't hide under the protection of her brother forever. Jade is furious, looking like a monster, stating he wasn't asking her, asking if she's betrayed their parents. Hearing this, Nephritis stops resisting, and she goes over to Jade. Jade then mentions that the Ring King not only escaped from his cell, but also abducted their princess, and he should prepare for what's coming. Elder Peridot stops him. Jade says that what she's done can be seen as treason, but the elder warns him that the other countries won't sit back from what he's done by locking away the ring. As of now, she's placing the Ring King under her custody. Jade agrees, but he mentions that she's banished from showing herself in front of his sister. The siblings leave. In the hallway, Hime is worried about him, but gets jealous by how close he got with the princess. Peridot interrupts their flirting. She bows, saying she's the oldest living elf in the country. Satu is curious and decides to ask if she knows why Nephritis behaves the way she does. Peridot reveals there is a story behind it. Jade and Nephritis have an older sister. The ring is passed out from the main family. When it came time to inherit the ring, it went to the oldest daughter. But one day she fell in love with a traveler. As their relationship became serious, doubts started to rise from the people. Rumors started to go around, with people believing that he was only here to steal the ring. But instead of giving up, the oldest daughter fell deeper in love with the man, but one day the traveler didn't come back, making her believe one of two things: that either the rumors about the ring got to him, or he was assassinated by the elves. Both Satu and Hime can't believe people would go that far. Grandpa interrupts them as the ring symbolizes power. Many wars started for such power. Back to the story. People began to celebrate the traveler's death. Now, what would you do if the person you knew died and people had a parade to celebrate it? The princess's heart turned cold, and she got angry. She left. But before she left, she gave them a heated speech, cursing the people of the village, hoping the abyss would destroy this place. Now elves or superstition, and took her cursing to heart. Over time, people believed that she put a curse on them. Doubt rose from their hearts. Her mother re-inherited the ring, and just to be sure, they erected a barrier to protect them. The current princess is convinced she has to honor what her parents sacrificed. Well, this will conclude the end of this video. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel.